Hello, everybody. Connie Kadansky here, interviewing Diane Rogers, who is the author of Leading Heartfully, Leading Through Your Heart and Discovering the Best in Others. Welcome, Diane.
Oh, Connie, I'm thrilled to be here. Absolutely. Thank you.
You're so welcome. So, Diane, my first question is, what inspired the idea to write this book?
It's a great question, Connie, actually. And I think initially it wasn't that I always wanted to write this book, but I knew for a very long time that I wanted to write a book. And I kind of joke a little bit that I wanted to write a book because I actually didn't think I could, right? That was my initial motivation, right? Which sometimes is what motivates me to do many things, is to overcome that challenge. But then as I continued to work and to actually witness the magnificence that I was seeing in people, and then the contradiction in sometimes the way that we lead, where we don't leverage the best in others, but rather help them to see where they're faltering. I thought that it was a really strong message that I could share and invite others to experience. And the main component of the book is not just that we lead with our heart to discover the best in others, but that in leading others, that we rediscover the best in ourselves as a human being who cares about another human being in our leadership way of being. So I guess I needed the time and the space to have a story to share and then to put it all together. And then I did. And then I thought it was horrible. And then I thought it was good. I mean, it was this kind, it was the whole journey of writing it.
So, what advice would you give a coach who wants to write a book?
I guess the first thing that I can just speak to my journey, right? But the first thing, and this is no different than how we coach others, right? But it is really to believe in yourself, right? And even where you're like, if you don't think you have a story, you probably do. And just start the process of figuring out why you want to share your story. So, what's meaningful about your story, what the impact might be, and then begin um, to embark on that discovery process. For me as a coach, um, I've been a coach for, I don't know, 6, 7 years, 8 years maybe at this point. And it's been a interesting journey for me because from the very beginning, I never thought I was a very good coach. I struggled with how I found myself fitting into being a coach, always having to ask the right question and all of that. And yet at the same time, in my work and as a leader and as a coach, I was often coach like. But it took me a very long time to acknowledge that I was a coach. And it wasn't until I actually wrote the book. And I remember the day vividly, Connie, because I had gone through multiple edits of the book, right? So it's also a long journey, at least it was for me to write the book, right? But I appreciated the journey so much. One of my phrases is, it's never about the end, it's always about the middle. And the middle for me was profound because there was a day after I was finishing my final edits. I literally closed the manuscript and I sat at my desk and I said to myself, I really am a good coach. And it was, so the end for me wasn't the book. I love, and it's a good book. I would, but But the most important thing that came in the middle was the discovery of me as a coach, as a human being, as somebody who really invests in discovering the best in people to help them get from here to there. So I know that's a long answer to your question, right? But so what is it, that advice that I would give to anyone who wants to write a book, a coach in particular, is to trust the middle, right? And to start on the journey. And you might not know, you might not have specific clarity to the desired state, but somewhere in the middle, right, there will be profound uh, reflections and discoveries that catapult you further than you ever imagined. At least that was my experience.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I can just see you saying, I am a good coach, and confirming it. Yes. Well, when I read your book, I call it a percolator book because it's not the kind of book that somebody sits down on a Saturday afternoon and plows through. It is the kind of book where I would read a chapter and then I would contemplate and ponder, and I put the book down. And it really caused me to think, am I evoking the best in others? And I had to take a few days to reflect and breathe into it before I was going to pick it up and look at the next chapter. So thank you for that. So
And
knowing that you
I love that. And let me tell you what I hear that I didn't anticipate. When I wrote it, and what when I was editing it, I kept saying, I want the reader to experience the book, which is an interesting comment. But you know what I didn't do, Connie, which is what you're actually, well, I didn't consciously do, right? Is I never really answered the rest of the question. That as coaches, we know the next question would be, what is it that you want them to experience, right? And so what I love about this idea of percolator is that I love that you're experiencing pausing, reflecting on, am I really being, and discovering the best in others? What happens when I do that, right? So I appreciate you sharing that with me to validate that whatever experience I wanted people to have, it's going to be different. But the important part for me is hearing what people are experiencing. I love this conversation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
The parts that brought me the most smiles in the process would be um, finding the right words that captured what I was trying to say. I discovered actually that I am a huge fan of alliteration. And I never really realized that, right? But how I can use words starting with the same letter in the same sentence over and over again. And that was kind of fun because I would say to myself, oh, I'm using alliteration again. And I love that about me, right? So there were things that I discovered when I would finish a chapter. It was very validating that I could start and end a story. I think the other thing that I so much enjoyed about the book is, as you know, because you've read it, right, that it's about people who I have discovered and helped them to see the best in themselves. And I think the most impactful part of the book for me was this awareness of the magnificence that exists in human beings, and that what's really possible when we see the intrinsic nature, right? The best, the essence of each individual, and bring that to their awareness. I very much enjoyed that as well.
Well, and since you mentioned that having fun with words, I know that there's a word that you really zero in on, and it is magnificent.
Yeah.
Share with us the definition and how that relates to leading heartfully.
Oh, it's such a great question. When I was so magnificence is the word that is threaded throughout the book, right? And it's not a word that I actually even had in my vocabulary up until a couple of years ago. And it came about in my work with healthcare professionals where I would spend a lot of time on the units with them, just observing and witnessing how they cared for patients. And I was looking for a word that tried to capture, right, the essence of how they were caring for these patients. And it wasn't about the clinical care that they were providing, it was about the connection that they were creating. It was about the kindness that they were bringing forward. And I was always struck by the fact that these were healthcare professionals who got up every single morning to care for strangers. And to me, that was just profound. Like, who does that? Right. And yet, that's what healthcare professionals do every single day. And so I was trying to find this word, and magnificent came, to my mind. And then I looked it up in the dictionary, and it kind of captured the definition, but not really. So I just made up my own definition, right? And so the definition of magnificence is the quality of magnifying the essence or the intrinsic nature, right? That which is within of an individual or an experience, right? So it's actually, so my other phrase is the ability to turn your observers on and to find within the individual the essence of who they are. Now, we just did that positive intelligence class, right? Okay. And Shirzad talks about the essence, right? It's the essence, it's what is within us from the very beginning of our life, right? So, how is it that we can discover the essence of an individual and then hold up the mirror for them to see that? And as a leader, right? So, one of the challenges, of course, is right. So, as a leader, we have on our improvement hats, we have on our fix it hats, we have on our operational hats, right? So, our current observers are scanning the environment to find out what's broken and how we fix it. And so, to lead heartfully is we actually recalibrating our observations, turning our observers on to look into the essence of the individual, and then that to bring that forward in an acknowledgement and in our conversations, which I learned in my coaching, schooling, right, and practice of the value of holding up the mirror to our strengths, bringing those acknowledgments forward. And the thing that is most profound is that in our everyday lives, how often is it that we're really helping people to see their own magnificence? We don't. And what's possible if we all just turned our observers on and noticed the magnificence in each individual and let them see that for themselves?
Yeah. I love the way you said it's magnifying their essence. And I got a picture in my mind of a magnifying glass that we're looking through the magnifying glass to see the essence and the value. Are you going to do an audio version of your book?
I think I will do an audio version of my book, and here's why. Okay, one is I actually think that could be fun. Okay, others who have read the book who know me say to me, I can still hear you saying this, right? And so I think that an audio version will make it more personal and inviting, and I can absolutely just have fun with it. So, and
Yes.
why do you ask the question? It's a great question.
Well, because I'm an audio learner and
Yeah.
I buy a copy of a hardcover and the audio version. And I just enjoy listening. And I love it when authors actually are reading their book, and because it just brings it alive, and you can just feel, going back to your word, you can feel the essence. So when is the last time you Googled yourself?
That's a great question. Um, I'd have to say years. Seriously, I don't. Yeah. Connie, I always love your questions. I love your questions, and I always love the perspective of just God. Okay, so years.
Okay.
Yes.
So you might want to do that, because I did that today. And you have some significant Google's places, and just to find out, oh, what am I going to find here?
Okay.
Now, okay, so Diane, what is your plan to market your book?
So my plan, it's I'll say half baked, right? So what I'd like to do is figure out how to, and this is what I'm playing with in my head, right? That I'd like to figure out how to utilize the book to create communities and conversations together with a diverse group of leaders, where we explore, like kind of like a book club, but a deeper dive with a coaching focus around how to have those conversations, right? So in the book, I talk about the ease of engagement, for example. And there are things that I invite the leaders to bring forward in their conversations with their staff, right? So, how do we create a community and a coaching conversation together where we appreciate and reflect on what is it we're really talking about with the ease of engagement? But then we go away and we come back and we say, what happened when you tried it? What were the challenges that you discovered in having to create a conversation that enlightens with purpose, for example? So I'm trying to figure out how to do that in a way that really marries the group coaching process with a leadership community, and where um, again, with the intention that leaders discover the best in themselves. Like, I want them to walk away and go, wow, I'm not just a good operational leader, but I can lead people in a way where they feel really, I loved your word, Connie, where they feel valued, where they feel cared for, where they feel confident, where they feel like they can do anything. And when you can step back as a leader and see the impact that you make in people's lives, right? That's what I would like. I haven't quite figured it out yet, right? Maybe just these kinds of conversations, inviting ideas on, you should try that, will help. So if you have any ideas, right, tell me, how would you like it, right?
Well, yeah, I think you would be an excellent podcaster, because you a podcast guest, because you have the energy and the conversational, and it's fun and it's colorful. So I'd suggest that you take a look at that. So now, you already shared with us that writing and publishing this book has been deeply personal for you in your own growth and development, and that you discovered in your own value, like, I'm a good coach.
Yeah.
Any other perspectives about yourself that you have changed since writing and publishing a book?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think part of is a really good question, Connie, right? The first thing that comes to mind is the importance of practicing, right? Leading heartfully, right? So to very consciously and intentionally ensuring that I'm showing up every single day, right, with the intention to discover the best in others. The second one that comes to mind is I guess the words that I want to say is just, you know, meeting myself where I'm at. And that whole notion of you're just enough, right? That not letting the inner critic guide my life, right? That just to say that I'm doing the best that I can every single day, and the best of me is good, right? And not let all that other stuff get in the way that tends to take away from the best in me. So it's been writing the book has been really, it was not an easy journey for me. Connie, I have a math degree. I don't have an English degree. Words were not my forte, right? So just the writing part was challenging. But to just stay stay connected to what is meaningful to me, trust that I'll figure it out, um, be humble. Um, I think that all of that. Um, and I think the other one, which is also hard, is to celebrate the accomplishment. I tend to be, and this is the wrong word, but maybe it's the right word, embarrassed, right? I don't want to tell anybody I'm an author, right? Oh, I wrote this book, right? Your brain just goes, what are you doing, right? So kind of just stepping into those spaces of, yeah, I'm a good coach. I wrote a book and it's a good book and it will help, maybe not, but it will certainly invite a different kind of conversation into how we lead. So practice what I wrote, right? That's the thing in my head, right? Be your best self. Notice where it makes an impact. I don't know.
Well, yes, and I can tell what I'm hearing you say that it's almost been a cathartic experience for you.
Yes.
I'm so proud of you, and you represent the coaching industry so well in a very specific way. And for the readers out there, this is for any leader because it's not how to lead, it's how to truly be the leader that discovers the best in others. So thank you so much. It's been a blast.
Oh my God. Such profound words. And Connie, I really want to thank you. When you asked me to do the interview, it was another one of those moments where I was just like, oh my God, I would have never thought of that. Right. So I am truly blessed, privileged. I love being part of the ICF community. I love the book clubs. I love hearing the perspectives and getting to know all of the different people. So thank you for continuing to invite me into this circle of coaches where I learn, grow, and just be a better person. So
yeah, you're welcome.